All right. So, all right. Just double checking, checking levels, all that fun stuff. So I have to make sure I can actually hear myself. Okay, I'm live. That's the good part. Okay, so just make sure I can hear my audio just fine. Everything's good. I'm very conscientious about that. Let me see. All right. All right. Yep, that's good. All right. 322 crew. Your boy, Ron. I'm here, obviously. This is a different episode than what I usually make or different live because I did promise my peoples over on YouTube that, well, I mean, not YouTube. I mean, duh, I'm here. um, I did want to make good on my promise that, hey, I went to go see Sound of Freedom and I'm making good on my promise. I'm making a review. Um, I went in, just for full disclosure, with an open mind. I didn't go in there with any biases against the movie or for the film. Um, got the ticket for free. So, as they say, free is free. You take it, you make good use of it. You know what I mean? Damn, got bit by a mosquito. That's neither here nor there. So, the movie. All right, long story short, based on a true story about someone that worked with, with the U.S. government. And of course, I like how the premise at first is like he's just catching these, these pedos, right? And I don't have to get too graphic with the description on what I mean. If you know what that means, you already know what that means and who I'm talking about, right? Except he all of a sudden finds himself questioning his line of work, mainly because, well, like, hey, your job's just to catch the pedos. Um, the kids, yeah. And for him, that's what really started bothering him. So I was like, all right, so this isn't like, let me put it this way before I continue further. Anyone that thought this was like some sort of QAnon type of thing, it's not. It really isn't. Um, After seeing for myself, I was like, no, this isn't a QAnon thing the way people were saying it was. Um, is it like the greatest movie ever? No. It's good. Don't get me wrong. Those 2 hours were definitely good. Very solid pacing, good soundtrack. So I'm not gonna knock it. Like, you know, I had no idea who the studio was, what they're about. I was like, because I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna go see a movie, I want to see it with as little bias as possible. Give the movie a clean slate for when I'm watching it, so that way when I walk out the theater, I can be like, you know what? This is what I actually think about it. So as I'm watching and I'm seeing the story unfold and how his crisis of conscience, where he's like, yeah, I'm catching all these pedos, you know, from various areas, but it's like, what about these kids we got to rescue? It's like, okay, we're getting these people, but then where the kids are, and then where the story leads from there, it's kind of like there were two specific kids he was going for, right? Because he managed to rescue one kid, but then the sister's still out there, and even the father's like, "How would you feel if that was one of your kids? Where like there was still one bed that was empty, you know?" And I kind of put him where it was like, "Shit, I better like," it really made him think. And then and one of the things that I took away from this was to be in that line of work, to do the good deed of rescuing kids from all this trafficking. A good hero in this is never gonna have clean hands. You're gonna get your hands dirty. If anything, I would say to some extent I was prepared for this film in the sense that if you've ever watched Law and Order, not playing Law and Order or even SVU, even though you would think SVU would prepare you for this type of thing, but I would say Organized Crime, starring Chris Maloney, playing as Elliot Stabler, where he's dealing with organized crime, get into all these spots, and a lot of times, in order for him to actually nab these people, he has to get his hands dirty. By that meaning, like you know, hypothetically being in bed with them, not necessarily doing exactly what they're doing, but to kind of follow them, but not making it obvious that hey, I'm the guy that's gonna take y'all down, type of thing. And that's pretty much what happened here with Tim's character here. Like I'm like, damn, yeah, you really want to go after these guys and you want to really rescue these kids. Prepare to get your hands dirty. This is not going to be easy. And when you're dealing with when it's international, and then even at this point it was like intercontinental. Because think about it, you're going from North America, from the U.S. You're dealing with Honduras, but then you find out that one of the kids that was in Honduras, you're gonna have to go all the way to Colombia, and then there's a chance that the kid is either still there in Colombia in a spot where a lot of rebels are at, and the kid might be there, or worst case scenario, they got traded off to someone else in another foreign nation. So it was one of those things where I was like, this is. It was heavy, man. It was heavy, and just you know, as a dad, that really got me. Where it was like, yeah, man, like that, like this wasn't like a Book of Eli type thing. This wasn't like any of the Taken movies with Liam Neeson. No, this was dealing with a very heavy subject. Of course, they weren't as graphic as you would have. Let me put it this way: if the subject matter were taken seriously by people, let's say in Hollywood, hypothetically speaking, they would have had us actually see everything you saw, but they probably would have made it look a little extra to the point that it would actually get in your skin a little more. Um, but one thing that they did very well with this film is that you didn't have to do all that. You didn't have to. Trust me, what they gave you was more than enough for you to point, fill in the blanks of what was happening or what was being done. You didn't have to really use your imagination all that much. Uh, some have tried to call this a little Christian film. The studio maybe, but the film didn't come off as that at all. It clearly sent a message about human trafficking. It's a real thing, and we're not talking about like it's just happening. These no, like the message is sent home even clear towards the end of the film that most of it's happening here in the U.S. And then if you notice all the little traffickers are really up top in the film. These aren't like people necessarily from overseas. They're coming from when in house here in the U.S. trafficking, spreading them elsewhere, and doing God knows what just to make a quick buck like that. That's just it goes to show how messed up humanity can be, and yeah, it was one of those. Um, Yeah, and then I liked the one thing that also I can take away from this is that Jim Caviezel playing as Tim, I was shocked that it was even. I could not recognize Jim Caviezel, and for those wondering, he played Edmond Dantes in the movie Count of Monte Cristo, which was actually the first film I ever saw him in, and I thought he was excellent there, like hands down. Like in my opinion, he would have been the guy I would have picked to play Batman in the Christopher Nolan films. Just my opinion. No knock on Christian Bale, but Jim Caviezel actually would have been my choice. He also played Jesus in Passion of the Christ, so there's that. But to actually see him in this film, and he's like, you almost can't recognize him. Like if not for his voice, you wouldn't have recognized Jim Caviezel in any way, shape, or form. Like he just, like I was like, that's some good acting right there. So they didn't have like some second rate, cheap actor. They actually had a solid actor there. So it goes to show. And the crew definitely did a great job. The transition, between scenes, I really enjoyed too. For a film that didn't really have a huge budget, it looked really damn good. It really did. Um, that was my thing, you know. And just for more disclosure, I did not watch this film in some sort of weird defiance against Barbieheimer. Remember, this ticket, I got it for free. I didn't pay for this. And since it was highly recommended, and people from different walks of life recommended this, so it wasn't like people over there. There was a few people a little over here too that would tell me, "Hey, go check it out." Like, so I'm like, "All right, you know what? Yeah, like Barbie, I don't really care." I will tell you this: um, the marketing is aimed towards children, but the film is PG-13. It doesn't really line up all that well. Now, I will tell you a story about something really funny in lieu to this film, right? So I go in the theater, punch my ticket in, step in, sit down, relax. Yo, there was more diversity in the trailers leading to this film and probably in any other movie I've seen in the theater when it comes to trailers. Hear me out. A film directed and put together by a Christian film company. And the first trailer you see is Lil Nas X, flamboyantly gay, with the vitamin water. Like, I was dead. I was dead laughing. But then I was like, wait a minute, this don't feel right. Because at first it's him with a chick, and then the chick's finding out that he's into dudes. Duh, no surprise to any of us. But then the part where it gets weirder is when the dude he's with, it's like, nah, I can't deal with this thing that you have with cats. So it's like, that's a little suspect. They, of course, then had us see a trailer of Blue Beetle. I thought that was really awesome. I'm actually looking forward to it. It actually looks really good. They picked a good actor. I thought it was funny that George Lopez is in there. But I was like, you know what? Blue Beetle actually looks good. I like it so far. That was my first time seeing anything of the film whatsoever. So you got all this weird stuff where like it has sprinkle of anything, but because usually when you have certain films, usually the trailers that accompany it, leading to it, it kind of has a smooth transition of the tone or the subject material, kind of if ish. It's like either you were watching Sonic 2, Black Adam, Infinity War, Wakanda, whatever. Like any of the other films that you probably went to see in theaters. Usually, the trailers are kind of more in line, similar to, the main event. Kind of like whenever I used to do shows, back home in Brooklyn, where me and the boys would be in a gig, and usually the lineups would have bands that are in a similar genre to the band that's headlining the show. And usually with films they do pretty good with this, except that I was like, this stuff is like super on the other side of the spectrum. Oh, but then there's this movie. It's like, what? It kind of threw me for a loop. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just it just threw me in for a loop. But yeah, I would say if you're looking for a movie that's meant to be for escapism, as in like to just kind of distract from the real things at hand and stuff, this movie ain't it. This movie is touching a real subject, a real situation, a situation that's not really just isolated. This is stuff it's going on around the world. You know what I mean? This isn't something that's like, oh yeah, just because this one thing happened, all of us this way. No, no, no. This is just one story out of many that are out there that we don't know about, and some that we do. Um, so that's about all I have to say about the movie. I enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. I'd be like, hey, you want to see a movie that's got decent value and it's worth sitting down to watch and really see, kind of like behind this. I wouldn't say behind the scenes. I would say, you want to see a film that really tells a good story. This is a good story right here that's being told. Um, it's not an entertaining movie. You're looking to be entertained. This is not the film for you. This is a film that covers very serious subject matter, not something to be taken lightly in any way, shape, or form. So I will leave you with that, right? Um, Definitely not a QAnon bait film. Don't get me wrong. Some of those type of people will gravitate towards this, but they won't do it because they're interested in the film. They'll do it just as this weird defiance against whatever's trending the other way. I'm not one of those people. I'll never be one of those people, to be very honest with you. I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to go see a film, it isn't because of the hype around it, but it's rather because, you know what? It's gotten my attention. I want to check it out, see what I think about it, right? The movie didn't get much publicity from the mainstream media. That's neither here or there. Then again, it's not a big budget film. And yet it's making big budget money. Like, go ahead, Google it, Google Sound of Freedom on Wikipedia. You'll find that they're making some good money off this film. This film is making good money, which means people putting their money where it matters in that regard. Of course, other people are, choosing to the escapism, the entertainment that, movies are meant to have. And I have no issue with that. There's a time and place for that. But, this was a good one. It was a good one. I definitely give it the thumbs up on that. And, well, that's about all, guys. So, anyone that tuned in to hear my opinion on this. And, yeah, love you guys. Take care.